What's up guys, my name's Brandon, and when iOS 13 first came out, there were two groups of people. There were the old gen iPhone users, and then there were the newer gen iPhone users. Now those with the older phones like the iPhone SE, they were surprised and super happy to find out that they now got 3D touch-like capabilities for the first time ever on their phone. But those with newer generation iPhones like the iPhone 6s and above were a bit disappointed to find out that 3D touch was pretty much removed and replaced with the long press action known as haptic touch. Now of course haptic touch was first introduced last year with the iPhone XR, and around that same time last year we started to hear more and more rumors circulating that the 2019 iPhones and beyond will not have 3D touch and they will be adopting the same software that we see on the iPhone XR, which is the long press aka haptic touch. And now with iOS 13 it's looking like those rumors were definitely true. So in this video I wanted to discuss the state of 3D touch and haptic touch in iOS 13 and what's coming next. So yeah, like I mentioned at the beginning, it was a pleasant surprise to see phones like the iPhone SE get the 3D touch-like capabilities. And honestly, after using this feature on my iPhone SE, it really feels like a new phone. Like it feels like a much newer phone than it actually is. And you know, you can do it on all the home screen icons just like you could with 3D touch in the past. You can peek and pop, and it really just makes things feel more fancy within iOS. It makes me feel like I can do things faster and more effectively, since I was a big fan of 3D touch and I use 3D touch a lot ever since it was first introduced. Now, one of the great ways of using 3D touch was on the home screen. So I would always, if I needed to call somebody really quick, I would 3D touch right here on the phone icon, and I would have my favorites down there and I could call them really quickly. And I would do it for multiple apps as well, like to start a new note, I would 3D touch on that and make a new note. But now with haptic touch, things are a little bit different and it's definitely slower. So I have iOS 12 over here on my iPhone XS Max. So I want to compare the speed real quick and show you guys how much slower haptic touch is than 3D touch. So I'm just gonna give you guys a quick speed comparison between these two, because this is the iPhone XS Max here on iOS 12, which of course does still have the 3D touch capabilities. And then this is the iPhone 8, which did have the 3D touch capabilities in iOS 12, but of course now it's on iOS 13. So it has haptic touch, and I'm gonna show you the difference in speed. So for the App Store, you can see I just pressed down really hard because it is pressure sensitive, and that's how you 3D touch. You press harder on the screen. You can see how quick it comes up. But now on iOS 13, you have to wait for the little haptic feedback, and it takes a little bit longer, and it doesn't really pop up right away. You have to let go for it to actually come up. I'm still getting used to it. You can see it doesn't really work near as well as 3D touch does. Sometimes it doesn't even register, as you've seen multiple times there, but with 3D touch it registers every single time. So 3D touch is definitely superior in every single way. So obviously this is super disappointing to see Apple getting rid of 3D touch in favor of haptic touch. Now of course in iOS 12, if you wanted to delete applications or move applications around, you would just hold, but you wouldn't pressure hold. Like you wouldn't push down hard, you would just do a light press. But now in iOS 13, you basically have to hold and keep holding and keep holding and keep holding, and then the apps go into wiggle mode, and then you can delete and move around applications. So it takes much longer to move around and delete applications than it did on iOS 12. Now with that being said, there is a little bit of a quicker way to move applications in iOS 13. Now if you press down and right once you feel the haptic touch, right once you feel the haptic feedback, you start moving the application. That's also another way to move applications, and that is much quicker, but that is a little bit hidden and most people won't know that you can do that. Another big difference between haptic touch and 3D touch is that you can't peek and pop effectively like you could in iOS 12, because if you go on like an article like this and we go ahead and tap and hold and then press harder, you will see it will open up the article. But in iOS 13, we can tap and hold and it just peaks, it doesn't pop. You have to sit there and press it again for it to open up that actual article. And it works like that all throughout iOS. So like in messages and Safari and mail, everything is going to be that same way, which is super unfortunate because I really loved peeking and popping in iOS 12 on 3D touch compatible devices. Now it's a good thing that 3D touch isn't completely out of iOS 13, because one of the biggest areas, one of the main use cases for 3D touch is when typing, to use the actual keyboard as a trackpad. And luckily in iOS 13, that feature is still here. So if you press down hard in the middle of the keyboard, you can see there, we could still utilize 3D touch to go in between the letters. But of course on phones like the iPhone SE and the iPhone XR, you can't do that because these don't have 3D touch. They don't have a pressure sensitive home screen. You just have to go to the space bar and do it that way. Now 3D touch does still work on third-party applications like Instagram and Twitter, and pretty much any third-party application that supported 3D touch in the beginning does still support 3D touch, because of course iOS 13 is still in beta. So you'll see that I can peek and I can pop here in a third-party application, but of course you can't do that on any of the first-party applications, any of the default applications, because of course Apple is phasing 3D Touch out. And unfortunately, this all but confirms that the 2019 iPhones will not have 3D Touch, as rumored since last year. And the sad part is, after the new iPhones come out, third-party applications may very well remove their 3D Touch capabilities and replace them with the haptic touch capabilities that we see on the iPhone XR. Hopefully not. Hopefully they still keep both haptic touch and 3D touch, but I don't know. We'll have to see. Now, the thing I don't get is why would Apple remove the 3D touch capabilities from all the phones that already have the pressure sensitive screens and everything? Like, we already have the pressure sensitive screen. We already have 3D touch built in to the iPhone 8, the iPhone 7, iPhone 6s. All these phones have 3D touch already, so why remove it from all of them? Maybe the feature just wasn't used enough over the years and, maintaining it via software was too much work for Apple. That seems reasonable to me, but I just hope that it's not because Apple just wants us to all get used to how the new 2019 iPhones and beyond are going to be, because that's pretty bad. So yeah, I just wanted to make this video to let you guys know that yes, 3D touch is pretty much dead in iOS 13. It's not completely dead just yet. We do still have the trackpad feature, as you saw, which was one of the main reasons people like 3D touch and using it, including myself, but eventually it may die out completely, which sucks because I personally used it a lot, but I know your everyday person probably doesn't even know what 3D touch is and didn't even know that was a feature in iOS. We're all just so, techie and know everything, but the majority of people probably don't know that feature exists, and that's probably a big reason why Apple is phasing it out. So I'm going to pass the question along to you guys. Do you use 3D touch on your device? How often do you use it? Is it like a main feature for you? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Also, let me know why you think Apple may be removing it. I mean, there's some theories out there, but it could be for a number of different reasons. And of course, if you guys did enjoy the video and all my previous iOS 13 coverage, I would appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. Also, make sure to subscribe for a lot more iOS 13 coverage coming very, very soon. But anyways, guys, thanks again for watching the video, and I'll see you soon.